everyone, welcome back to a new video. Since it's October and Halloween's coming up this whole month, I wanted to do a little series of creepy, spooky Halloween videos, and this will be the first one in that little series, so let's just get right into it. I had a few ideas in mind for this month, but I couldn't decide what to start with, so I put up a poll on YouTube to see what you guys wanted to see, and you picked some original spooky creation, so that's what I'm starting on. I was super excited for this, so I got my cardstock, prepped my layers, and it was time to get started. I have this coloring book that I got from Walmart a while back, and it's spooky monster themed for Halloween, so I used this as inspiration. I found this one page of this little swamp creature, so that was my main inspiration for this specific light box. I made a sketch to figure out how I wanted everything to look. I decided to have this swamp creature coming out of this huge hollowed out dead tree, and there would be a group of people who were either hunting it or looking for it that spotted it, and it creates a scary encounter for them. Having a detailed sketch like this is really helpful because it lets me keep track of every single detail that I want, and I don't have to eyeball anything or come up with anything on the spot, and it just really helps me. So with my sketch done, let's get started. The first layer I cut out is the tree because this is the focal point and it will help me plan out everything else accordingly. So I just cut the tree into two sections and the monster will be in a separate layer in between the two. The first is the front of the tree, the second is the back of the tree. And these are really simple. I cut out the shape following the sketch that I have. Oh, and since this month is all about Halloween, I found this bug leg in my dad's garden, so here it is. Enjoy! Then I continue making the rest of the environment, making some trees in the foreground to frame the whole light box, and then creating the riverbank and a bunch of trees leading off into the distance, some rocks, and just continuing all these layers. For now, I am simply cutting out the silhouette of everything. I'm not adding any details yet because I want to see everything first and I want to cut everything out first before I do any kind of detail work. It makes it easier for me and I can fully visualize everything much better. One thing I really hate to cut out is grass, and these little plants that are really thin and small, I kind of hate them. It's so annoying to cut them out. I cut through a bunch of them by accident and it's just a big mess and it's not very fun. I hate this part, but it does add a lot of detail to the piece, so I think it is worth the effort and the pain. And now since all the layers are cut out, I can go in and add details to all of them. The first thing I do is create layers of water using tracing paper. I like using tracing paper because it's really thin and it lights up the whole light box and it's really pretty. Then I cut little wood grain details into the tree trunks. This is one of my favorite techniques to make things look like wood because it really works and it makes everything look woody and I really like that. So I just did that on these tree trunks. I add shading onto the back of that log to create a little bit of depth behind the monster and it looks a little spookier. I cut wood texture lines into the other trees in the background, which also really helps make them look like wood. And then for the riverbank, I create a little section of grass that like hangs down over the bank. And then I glue that on, and I also cut little lines into the bank again. There's a lot of layering things up and cutting lines to create as much contrast as I can, so that's basically all I'm doing. Oh, and by the way, I just wanted to mention that if you like the kind of work that I do and you want to support me more, I do have a Patreon set up. Right now, there's not much on there, but I'm going to be posting bigger animations and that kind of stuff on there. For now, it's just for support. So if you want to support me a little bit and help me make these bigger projects, then please click the link down below. Thank you. Then to spice things up a bit, I wanted to add a few leaves on these trees, so I got these leaves that I cut off from a previous project, this 3D diorama. I cut out a bunch of them to make the leaves on this tree, and I was super happy with how that turned out. And I had a bunch left over, so I just used them for this project and glued them sparsely around in the trees. There are a lot of stories and folk tales from all over the world that depict swamp creatures. There are some popular ones that you might have heard of, such as kelpies, and there's some not so popular ones, but they all depict some kind of swampy creature that lures people into the swamp and eats them. Some are really pretty, like the kelpies are often depicted as beautiful horses or humans that just lure you in and carry you into the swamp and drown you. And some, such as the Japanese kappa, are depicted as turtle-like humanoid creatures that eat people. They are tricksters who are known for loud farting, peering up women's kimonos, and kidnapping, drowning, and eating people. They're very mischievous. There is a monster in Finnish folklore called the Naki, which is a shape-shifting water spirit who grabs children who lean too far over the dock while gazing at their reflections. There is the Rusalki, which are the ghosts of drowned Russian maidens who lure people in with their dancing and singing and drown them in the water. So there's a wide range of different myths and stories regarding these kind of swamp monsters. And I took some inspiration by trying to imagine how this scene would look in like a fairy tale or like a folk tale. So I had a little bit of action going on because I'm trying to also better my compositions a bit and add a little more story into them. So I thought it would be cool to have some human characters that they've heard legends about this monster living in the swamp and they didn't believe it, and they go out to try to hunt it down or find it or something like that, and then they stumble upon it in the swamp eating some dead fish or something like that. And yeah, it was really fun to kind of step out of my comfort zone. I'm also trying to practice drawing people a bit more so I can get better and expand my repertoire and be able to do more things. So this was a fun little challenge for that. I don't think the human characters look the best, but I also don't think they look terrible, so that's a win in my book. For the swamp monster, I kind of lean into the more fishy dragon-like route instead of some like hairy, gross looking creature, because I thought it would just look more aquatic and it would fit the scene a little bit better. So I just kind of copied the sketch that I had, layering up shading and cutting out parts and just kind of going with the flow of things and just seeing what I like and what I don't like and just figuring this out and building up this little creature. Creating the open mouth and the dead fish were my favorite parts of creating this little guy, and I think he turned out nice and creepy. And cutting these little lines all over the body really helped add some texture, especially on the face. It created like a little eyebrow ridge and nose bridge going up to the forehead, and I just really like how that little extra detail looked. And then I positioned him onto his layer in between the two wood pieces. And now this little monster is done, and I'm moving on to the humans. I love making boats for some reason. They're just so fun, and I like creating this like a little bit of depth between the two pieces by adding a really thin strip of foam board in between them, and it just creates a tiny bit of depth and it makes it easier, and it just makes it look a lot better. So I did that with this boat. I added all the details again. I created seats, I created people to be in the boat, and yeah. And overall, this project was just really fun. I glue the completed humans into the boat, and then I make some wood oars, glue those in, glue the boat onto the layers, and then I create a few little ripples and details in the water. I create ripples by cutting some sketching paper really lightly into the shape of ripples and gluing them in place, and then I create some like gunk pond scum on the surface of the water by just cutting out random shapes and gluing them around, and this whole thing is done. I used my 1/2 inch thick foam board strips to layer up this light box. And here's the finished product. I wasn't sure what colors I wanted, so I kind of went with this red and green color scheme. Kind of creepy, kind of Halloweeny, spooky, and I really like that. And I'm really happy with how this light box turned out. Again, I think the humans could look a little bit better, but for now I think they're okay. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and again, check out my Patreon, it'll be linked down below. But yeah, I'll see you next week with another Halloweeny video. Bye!